Good evening, everybody. I'm Hena Doba, and for Elizabeth Vargas, we begin tonight with air travel turbulence. But you don't need to buckle your seatbelts because there's a good chance you are not leaving the ground. The longest government shutdown in U.S. history is now shutting down flights. Hundreds of flights canceled today, hundreds more already canceled tomorrow at 40 of the busiest airports across the country. Major hubs like Atlanta's Hartsfield, Chicago's O'Hare, and New York's JFK, they're all impacted. Look at that list on your screen. It's a long one. The reductions are meant to help with staffing shortages as air traffic controllers and TSA agents continue to work without getting paid. And it's only going to get worse next week. Today, though, Monday, airlines are cutting, today through Monday, I should say, airlines are cutting 4% of their flights. That'll rise to 6% on Tuesday, then 8% on Thursday, and then 10% next Friday. The nation's three biggest airlines cut a total of about 600 flights today to comply with the FAA order, and that does not include last-minute cancellations. According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 cancellations and 4,000 delays were logged at all airports in the U.S., including those 40 busiest hubs we told you about. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says if the shutdown keeps going, airlines may have to cut 20% of their daily flights. And he's told NewsNation, even if lawmakers do end the shutdown, it's still going to take some time to get things back to normal.
We have to assess what controllers are coming in when, and then it's going to take a little bit of time for the airlines to bring these flights back that they've taken down. So it's going to take us time, but we're going to try to do this as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. That's the key here.
Okay,
safety is number one.
We have team coverage now from coast to coast. NewsNation's Nancy Liu is live at Los Angeles International Airport. But let's kick things off with Jessica Cartel live at Newark Liberty, New Jersey. Jessica, always good to see you. Good evening. What's the situation where you are?
Good to see you too, Hena. Yeah, so we have been here all day, and I want to show you this. This is the monitor. We're starting to see the delays tick up, right? So we're looking at Toronto, where there's 4 flights around 2 hours taking off within each other. So what they're doing is basically combining all these flights into one. We've been seeing this all day, but now with 1,000 flights canceled, people are heeding the warning. They're not coming out. We did speak with 2 women who are flying today with very different stories. Take a listen.
My flight got canceled to and from Boston, but I got a flight with United and they were able to kind of figure it out really quickly. So I got very lucky because I was looking at train options, but the train prices are now more expensive than the flights.
I thought it was going to be crazy today, so getting here and finding out that the lines are not very long at all, and to be able to, United kept us updated overnight, and that was really nice that no changes to our flight. It's a nonstop, so I'm pretty hopeful we're going to get there on time.
So, Hena, I want to show you this behind me as well. This is the line here in Terminal A, Newark Airport on a Friday night. People are not here. It's unbelievable. We thought there would be people kind of camped out with flight cancellations and delays, but again, not the case. We think that they are downloading those apps, getting those real-time updates from the airlines, and staying home if at all possible. The one girl going to Boston, you heard her say getting a train fare up there would be more expensive than trying to ride this out and eventually getting on a flight. So your best bet, check with your airline ahead of time before you come out here. Download those apps, and if you can, try and postpone that flight if at all possible. Hena?
Always good advice. I've stood where you are many, many times. I've never seen it that empty, Jessica. Thank you so much. Jessica Cartel live at Newark Airport. It is insane. Crazy. I've never seen that. One of the busiest airports in the country. Thank you. Let's head to Los Angeles now. Another very busy airport where NewsNation's Nancy Liu is live for us at LAX. Nancy, what are you seeing there? I see a little bit of traffic behind you.
Well, we're seeing a little bit, but I'm going to step out too because, like Jessica, this is Terminal 7, LAX. This is the United Terminal. Pretty empty too. And this is the general boarding area through security. The overarching message for travelers has been, don't even come to the airport unless you know that your flight is not among those canceled. So smooth going so far today, but we've been talking to all kinds of very nervous travelers, and that includes Josh Kahal and Katie Samardik. I talked to them earlier. Their flight out of LAX, luckily it was a go, since they're heading to their own wedding. They're getting married in Pennsylvania this weekend. Here's what they had to say.
Josh is also from here, so his family has to come from California. My brother's coming from Detroit. There's a few pieces to coordinate. And then afterwards, we fly back here and are supposed to fly to Hawaii for our honeymoon. So we're not... Flights. There's a lot of flights that have to all connect here.
How nervous are you about all of it?
We're pretty nervous.
So far, so good, knock on wood. You know, we haven't had any cancellations or delays, but we still have a few more flights coming back here and then going to Hawaii. So, you know, anything's possible. We're just rolling with the punches.
Josh and Kate, they got to LAX 3 hours early, just in case. Happy to report they got onto that first leg of their flight. It's been smooth going so far here at LAX, about 50 canceled flights in and out today. Fluctuations in the security line, but it has been very smooth out here without issue. So major airlines offering refunds, rebookings. If you are impacted, you should know by now, and the airlines, of course, will walk you through getting rebooked and the next steps. AAA already telling us they're expecting a lot more people on the roads for Thanksgiving. So people changing their plans already. Hena.
Some good news. I'm glad that couple got on the plane. You don't want to be late to your own wedding. Nancy Liu, live at LAX for us. Thank you so much for that update, Nancy. And let's get reaction now from Chris Galland. He's a former air traffic controller, a Black Hawk pilot, Army veteran, and he's running for Congress in New York's 1st District. Chris, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Hena, thanks for having me.
You heard from our correspondents coast to coast. What are you hearing about these delays, these cancellations? Is it as bad as we were warned it could be? Do you think it could only get worse?
It is, and yes, I think it can get worse. The problem is right now, air traffic controllers are stressed out. It's already a very stressful job. I mean, it's one of the most stressful jobs in the country that you could possibly imagine doing. You work all day, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, because it's mandatory overtime, because staffing is very short. And the only mitigation to what these controllers are seeing is to reduce traffic in certain areas. Right now, in order for these controllers, or what they're going through is essentially, they're talking about what are they going to do with their childcare and what are they going to do about putting food on the table. Those are the questions that they're talking about every day now. So instead of relaxing on their break, they're discussing with other controllers, like, what is it can we do? And a lot of these controllers are starting to get extra jobs, whether it be at Uber or something, to basically put food on the table is what it comes down to.
Yeah, we're also hearing stories of air traffic controllers not even being able to put gas in their cars to make it to work. We heard from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy earlier in the show. He has said these cuts are a proactive safety measure. Should we worry about safety? Are you concerned about traffic safety?
I am not at all worried about safety. Safety is a key #1 priority of both NATCA, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, which is the union of air traffic controllers, and the FAA. It is something that they take as a paramount priority, and that is why they are so firm about it. And this is the reaction to that. The suggestion is if you're going to be traveling, to take a book, but safety is not going to be an issue. If they need to, they'll just continue to reduce traffic even further.
All right, that is some good news. You're running for Congress, Chris, the legislative body who is responsible for this entire mess. How would you fix this?
I would bring everybody back to work. Right now, the House of Representatives is currently on a vacation, and if they want to actually get anything done, they need to go to work. That's the main thing.
Let's go back to Secretary Duffy. He said this week that the government might have to close part of its airspace if the shutdown continues. Has that ever happened before? Is that unprecedented?
So sometimes they have to close airspace for emergencies, but for the extended period of time of what they're suggesting, I mean, that could cause cascading effects. The delays are something that cause cascading effects. You delay aircraft across the nation, say 1,800 flights in a day is what they're projecting, and you have to find places for those people, so they just get bumped to the next day and bumped to the next day, unless they just take other means of transportation, but it kind of backs up. So it's the cascading effect. And if they wind up closing part of the national airspace system, it's going to cause even more delays that are even it's crippling is what's happening.
Crippling, I think, is a good word. Let's talk about the holiday season as well. It's hard to imagine what this will look like if the government shutdown continues during Thanksgiving, which is just really a week or two away. What happens then?
Well, I remember working a couple of Thanksgivings, and it is quite literally the busiest time when it comes to air traffic. Yeah. I used to work at a smaller regional airport, and for the amount of traffic that we used to get in that night, it was probably the most IFR air traffic that we ever get for the year. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be pretty significant, though.
I'm going to go back to the word you used, crippling. Chris Gallant, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And there's at least one surefire way to end all this anxiety. Lawmakers who are still getting paid, by the way, can do their job and vote to end the government shutdown. As of now, again, day 38, there is still no end in sight. Let's go to NewsNation's Joe Khalil now, live for us on Capitol Hill. Joe, you've been following this from day one. Top Senate Democrat Chuck Schumer offered a proposal to end the shutdown. Republicans say it's a non-starter. Get me up to date here. What's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, Hena, we woke up this morning expecting there was going to be yet another vote to reopen the government, and it was going to be a little bit different. This vote was going to have a package where a couple of slices of government funding for a full year would be included. So this would include the agriculture, which actually includes SNAP and food assistance for a full year. There was going to be funding for military and for veterans for a full year. It was sort of a sweetener and an olive branch from Republicans to Democrats, along with a promise that later on at some point, Democrats would be guaranteed a vote on their critical issue, which is these health care, Obamacare subsidies to get extended. Pretty clear right away that Democrats were going to say that was not good enough. And they today, surprisingly, and really they kept it under wraps, came with a counteroffer and said, actually, how about we open the government, we extend the Obamacare subsidies for a full year, and we create a commission, a team of bipartisan senators. They can make reforms to these subsidies. Things that Republicans don't like about these subsidies, we can change throughout the year. That proposal was soundly rejected by Republicans. The Republican proposal soundly rejected by Democrats. So here we are now in a position where we're almost further away from a resolution today than we were yesterday. Congress took steps backwards, Hena, unfortunately, for the country, trying to figure out a way out of this shutdown. We talked to Republican senators, a ton of them. One, Senator Kennedy, had this to say in pretty blunt terms about the Democratic proposal.
What Chuck is proposing is that we do the dumbest thing possible that won't work. Stupid should hurt more. That means that we have to take $35 billion of taxpayer money and give it directly, not to the people, but to the health insurance companies.
And Hena, of course, on the other side of the aisle, we asked Democrats if their proposal is a non-starter for Republicans. What's the path forward? How do you get out of it? Take a listen from Senator Peter Welch here, how he described it. We do not have that, but effectively he said, I don't know. And he said it's unfortunate that Republicans feel that way. So here we are. There was no vote today on a CR to reopen. They are going to be here through the weekend, Hena, we are told, but still there's no date yet on the next vote. We don't know when that's happening. We assume sometime this weekend. So it's not looking great. The pathway to getting us out of a government shutdown still unclear at this point.
Now, those lawmakers certainly not mincing words. Joe, some breaking news came into the newsroom a few moments ago that I want to ask you about. Sources are telling NewsNation that former CIA Director John Brennan has been served a grand jury subpoena. You've been looking into this all week. What are we learning tonight?
Yeah, so there were some rumblings that this was going to happen. Now it has officially happened. And this is essentially the broader investigation that FBI Director Kash Patel had been sort of promising, relating back to the weaponization of intelligence. Again, this dates back to 2016. And the allegations by the Trump administration now that the Russian interference, all of the reporting that was done, all of the investigations that were done at that time were done in a way that weaponized intelligence that meant to undermine the Trump administration and the White House and his early campaign. Now, again, those are simply allegations, but what we've also been learning here is that these are 3 official subpoenas that have gone out to Brennan and to others, and that there may be more coming. In fact, there may be dozens more that are coming as it relates to this investigation. So really just the beginning here. And this is not obviously the first person that we have seen on President Trump's sort of political adversaries list that have been hit with grand jury, either subpoenas or investigations. Obviously, we saw indictments already for James Comey and for others. So this is a sort of next iteration of what we've already seen, Hena.
Joe Khalil at a very busy Capitol Hill. A lot of activity behind you as well, Joe. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, my friend. And coming up on the other side, another boat strike in the Caribbean. It kills at least 3 people, and it likely won't be the last. But is it legal? The State Department joins me live after a quick break. And later, Tom Brady cloned his beloved dead dog. But is cloning just for celebrities? Can you do it? I'll talk to the company that made it all happen next. Now to the Caribbean, where the number of people killed tonight from those deadly U.S. boat strikes in the region, that number is at least 70. The death toll rising after the 17th lethal U.S. strike was carried out yesterday, targeting an alleged drug boat. Take a look at this video. It shows the ball of fire after the strike annihilated the vessel. All 3 men on board were killed. That's according to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He called the men narco-terrorists on X. He then added, to all narco-terrorists who threaten our homeland, if you want to stay alive, stop trafficking drugs. If you keep trafficking deadly drugs, we will kill you, end quote. President Trump has justified the deadly strike, saying the U.S. is in armed conflict with drug cartels. But the White House has provided very little to no evidence backing up the claims the boats are, in fact, trafficking drugs. And Democratic lawmakers are demanding answers. They claim boat strikes violate U.S. and international law. And there are also worries about the U.S. military buildup in the region overall, with the USS Gerald Ford on its way there, our biggest carrier, by the way. But efforts by Senate Democrats to curb Trump's military campaign in the Caribbean have not been successful. A second measure failing just yesterday. So where does that leave us today? For more, we are joined by Tommy Pigott, Principal Deputy Spokesperson for the State Department. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course, we're thrilled to have you. First, I want to ask, how do we know that these men were narco-terrorists? And tell me more about this latest strike.
Well, the Secretary, as he's made clear, we're very confident about the intelligence behind this strike. The Department of War can speak more to the specifics of that. But as the President has said, each one of these boats represents 25,000 American lives, 25,000 Americans that could be poisoned by the flow of deadly drugs into our country. The President has been clear that we will stop the flow of deadly drugs into our country, that we will combat these narco-terrorists, and the President is doing just that.
You mentioned that the administration trusts the intelligence. There's so many Democrats and Republicans, lawmakers on both sides, who say there's not enough transparency. Why not share the evidence with them, with fellow lawmakers?
Look, we just saw Secretary Rubio on the Hill. I'm not going to discuss intelligence further here through the media. But what I can say is, as the Secretary has said, is that we have extreme confidence in this intelligence. And it's incredibly important that we stop the flow of these deadly drugs into our country. The leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45 are overdoses, fueled by the flow of illegal drugs into our country. The President is securing the border, he's combating these narco-terrorists, and there's a whole-of-government approach to designate cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, work with our partners in the region, have security agreements, stop the era of mass migration to combat these cartels, stop the flow of these drugs, and protect the American people.
At what point does the Trump administration consider this operation a success? Again, there's been 17 strikes in September, I believe. How are you measuring success of these strikes?
Well, the president is going to stop the flow of deadly drugs into this country. And there's a whole of government approach to do just that. It is a national security imperative. As I mentioned, the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45 being overdoses fueled by the flow of these illegal drugs. The president has secured the border. He's worked across the government in order to establish this initiative to stop the flow of these deadly drugs and combat these narco-terrorists. That's the promise the president has made, and he is living up to that promise.
Tommy, I have faith in our intel community, but I have to ask, what happens if there is a mistake, if the administration accidentally hits a fishing boat instead?
Well, I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals, but what I can say is, as the president has said, every one of those boats, 25,000 American lives potentially being poisoned by these narco-terrorists. That is unacceptable, and we are taking action to stop it.
There's been a lot of talk about possibility of regime change in Venezuela. There was even talk of a 100-hour transition plan with the Venezuelan opposition leader. Any truth to that?
We have been very clear that we are engaged in a counter-cartel operation. We have been very clear about that. The secretary has expressed that. We've expressed that from the State Department. The president himself has expressed that. The president also recently spoke to this on 60 Minutes. We're engaged in a counter-cartel, counter-drug operation combating these narco-terrorists. That's where our focus is.
Have we had any diplomatic talks with Venezuela in the last few weeks, Tommy?
Well, what I can speak to is our diplomatic talks across the region. And there's a lot of enthusiasm across the region to combat these cartels. We are seeing security agreements being signed. We're seeing security cooperation enhanced. We're seeing other countries join us in designating many of these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. The secretary, his first trip as Secretary of State was to our region, and he has been back multiple times to show the dedication to this region, the fact that American leadership is back in our region and that we are working with our region to stop this problem that we all face. Countries across our region are being destabilized by these cartels, and so we're coming together to work to combat these narco-terrorists.
There's one question I want to get to. I want to pivot a bit before you go. The State Department says it's more than doubled the number of non-immigrant visa. They've revoked a lot of them this year for a range of reasons, from DUIs to terrorist activity. Is there specific criteria or intelligence that triggered this? How does the department ensure this isn't being used to target people simply for their political views?
Well, fundamentally, so what we're seeing is 80,000 visas that have been revoked under this administration, 80,000, way more than the previous administration. And it's guided by the fundamental principle that every single visa decision is a national security decision. So that applies when you apply for that visa, but also when you're here. If you take action such as breaking our laws, supporting terrorism, or action that counters the terms of your visa, things that if you had done and we had known about in advance, you wouldn't have gotten the visa, you may see that visa revoked. So those crimes that we're talking about, 16,000 approximately for DUI, we're seeing visas being revoked for theft and assault, those being the three main reasons. So we will not tolerate people, foreigners here on visas that break our laws. Being here is a privilege, it's not a right.
Tommy Pigott, I really appreciate you joining us this Friday night. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Coming up, we're remembering Dallas Cowboy defensive end Marshawn Kneeland. Is his death a warning about the mental health stigma in pro sports? Former professional tennis player Patrick McEnroe joins me when we come back. Welcome back. Tonight, there is deep shock in the world of professional sports after the tragic death of Dallas Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland. But as more details emerge of Kneeland's death by an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound, the NFL finds itself in a familiar, albeit painful moment of self-reflection over the state of mental health among their players. Last night, professional sports teams in Texas and across the country held moments of silence for Kneeland, whose body was found early yesterday morning following a brief police chase. Loved ones say he had left messages saying goodbye. Kneeland was just 24 years old. And anyone wondering about the promise of his budding career need only to look at Monday night, when a euphoric Kneeland scored a touchdown in the Cowboys game against the Arizona Cardinals, celebrating there on the gridiron not 48 hours before his death. The NFL offers teams mental health training, mental wellness, health benefits, clinical social workers, even a hotline that's staffed by trained counselors. Kneeland's girlfriend says he had a history of mental illness. Joining me now, Patrick McEnroe, host of Holding Court on Sirius XM, and himself no stranger to the intense pressure of always appearing tough and stoic when it comes to pro sports. Patrick, long time no see. Great to see you, my friend. Good evening.
Good to see you, Hena. You're 100% right. I mean, when you're an athlete, you think about being tough, and particularly football players, right? We see them every Sunday, how strong they are physically, mentally. They have to be tough as well. But this is such a sad story, number one, for this young man who had so much promise and very well liked by his teammates. He was sort of someone that, wasn't a big time collegiate player and made the Dallas Cowboys team. And as you just showed, what a signature moment for him on the field. And this happened just a couple of days later. So let's send some thoughts and prayers to his family and his teammates as well. And I'm not really sure, Hena, that the NFL has a specific issue. I mean, this is the first roster player that I think has ever happened that's on a main roster that's committed suicide while he's still on the team. But that being said, this is an issue for all of us, right? For the entire country. We see this happening to teenagers, to young people all over the country in all walks of life. And as you said, the NFL, I think, has done a lot more, but there's more that they can do and that they should do and that we all should do moving forward to be open to saying it's okay to ask for help. Asking for help can actually be part of your strength. And I think that's the message that we have to deliver to not only professional athletes, but to all young people, especially around the country.
Patrick, I am curious, have you seen the conversation of mental stability happen more and more? Has the needle changed in the last 10 years? Because I feel like before we never talked about it, and now it's become somewhat of a discussion.
I think it's changed a lot, and I think mostly, Hena, it's changed for the better, that we're able to have a lot more of these discussions. You've seen Michael Phelps, you've seen Simone Biles, you've seen Dak Prescott, who's a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, all talk more openly about this. So I think that's part of what it's going to take. It's got to be coaches, it's got to be leaders, it's got to be owners of these teams, and it also has to be all of us in the media to be able to speak about this and say, again, it's okay. This should be, Hena, as routine for a professional athlete as checking their shoulder, as checking their ankle, things that players do on a regular basis to make sure they go to their physical therapist on the team to make sure they're good to go physically to play in that next game. Well, it should be that they're good to go mentally as well. So maybe more check-ins, more checkups with these players, even ones that seemingly don't seem to have a problem. Now, this young man obviously had a history, as we heard from his girlfriend and others in his family. So you hope that the Dallas Cowboys and their team did what they could, and you hope that going forward, we can all do a little bit more.
Patrick, can you walk us through the mental health challenges pro athletes face behind the scenes? We probably don't really have an idea.
Oh, there's the stress of the environment of just being out there, being, fans, and you feeling the pressure of being on a big-time team like the Dallas Cowboys, playing for your career. And I think the other thing, Hena, that's another story that's come up this week is, how much gambling that's going on in the world. I know in my world of tennis, this has been going on for years, where tennis players are consistently threatened online by professional gamblers, either before or after matches. And I've heard from some football players, and in fact, I heard from one of the NFL kickers saying that he's consistently berated online on his social media if he misses a kick, if he makes a kick. Gambling has become such a part of the lexicon for better and worse in professional sports for all of us. And that's making all these players, I think, have to deal with that. And just the social media issues that go along for all of us. For my 3 teenage daughters, you got to be making them aware of all these things that can happen. And I think for professional athletes, the spotlight, Hena, has become even brighter because of gambling and social media as well.
That's a really good point. Gambling, that's such a strong aspect of what we see playing out right now, especially on the field. Patrick McEnroe, always great to see you, Pat. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Hena. Thanks.
And coming up, we will be switching gears. Tom Brady is back in the news this week. We'll talk to the person who just cloned his dog. You heard me right. His dog has been cloned, and we will talk about it. That's next. Joining us now is Matt James. He is the Chief Animal Officer at Colossal Biosciences. Matt, thank you for being here. You have prompted so many conversations in the newsroom. We're so excited to have you.
Excited to be here. Thanks so much, Hena.
First, let's start with how this works exactly. Is it a blood sample that you take? Is it what Barb said, a few cells from the animal's mouth?
So the technology is always changing. We've just actually improved the technology recently in the last year or so, where now all we really need is a blood sample. We still rely on other types of tissues as well, like she said, like cheek swabs and tissue biopsies. But using the technology today, Colossal is able to clone from simply a small blood draw.
So Tom Brady's clone dog is a male, Lua is a female. They do have identical DNA, but Junie is not an exact replica. Break this down for me. What does that mean?
Well, Junie's a female. Let me be straight. I was there. She was born. She's female. So Junie and Lua are both female, but they are exact genetic replicas of each other. But one question that we always get is, are they the same exact dog? But just like, identical twins have their individual personalities because they've had unique life experiences. Each of these dogs, the clones, tend to have their own sort of nurture about them. Even though their nature is exactly the same, they have a unique nurture.
So their behavior might be different. It's not exactly the same as, let's say, Lua, or is it shaped by environment, like people, like twins, as you mentioned?
Exactly. The environment plays almost as much of a role in it as any other thing. But what we're really excited about is this gives families, and not just families, but also the conservation world, the tools to bring animals back through cloning. So we're able to restore loved pets to their families while also developing technologies that help protect endangered species.
Did Brady approach you a while before Lua died saying he was interested in doing this? How did this all come about?
When we first started talking to Tom, he was really excited about all the impact that the company could have. And then we got into the technologies, and he understood that one of our technologies, cloning, could really help with Lua. So he asked the question, could I clone Lua? And we said, absolutely. So we went down there, and actually, unfortunately, 2 months after we got the sample out of Lua, she passed away. But in that same month, Junie was born.
What kind of feedback have you heard from Brady and other clients who've done this?
I mean, people are so ecstatic to have, a near replica of their pet returned to the family. Some people, do it because there's specific physical or personality traits that they're after, and other people do it because it helps the family heal.
How much does something like this cost? Can regular people, those non-millionaires, be able to do this one day soon?
Yeah, I mean, science is really hard, so it is an expensive endeavor. It's about $50,000 to clone your dog or cat and $85,000 to clone your horse.
Okay. Have people cloned their horses?
Yes, yeah. We do about as many horses as we do dogs and cats. So people that work in a lot of different horse fields like equestrian and polo, they like to clone horses instead of, running the risk of breeding and seeing what type of specimen comes out.
What if a pet you love has health issues? Is there a way to clone them without those ailments?
So one of the things we offer is what we call gene banking. So this is the opportunity for you to take the sample, and we'll bank the sample, and it'll sort of stay in our liquid nitrogen banks. We do that because one day there could be an opportunity where we could use the same tools that Colossal uses to make dire wolves and woolly mammoths. We could use that to remove, health issues from certain lines of pets.
I do have to ask you about ethical concerns. Some say you're playing God. Others say just adopt the millions of pets that are out there. What would your response be?
I think there's a right answer for every family, right? Some people want to adopt, some people want to find a specific breed, and other people want to clone a pet that they know. The amazing thing about cloning the pet that they know is every pet we produce at Viagen has a home, right? Colossal and Viagen work together to make sure that those animals have fantastic homes.
Well, just so you know, right now, these are all our pets, the team's pet on the screen, and we love our animals, and we all agreed if we could clone any one of these animals on the screen, we would do so. Would you clone yourself? Would you clone your pet here, Matt?
So, I rescued an amazing Australian Shepherd. Her name's Cupie. We have banked her samples just in case one day we decide to. But right now, we're so happy experiencing Cupie the way she is. And I think by the time at the end of her life comes, we might need a little break because she's got so much energy.
All right, Matt James, this is so interesting. I can talk to you all night long. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us, Hena.
Of course. We are going to pivot a bit here. The FBI is currently investigating a religious organization that former worshipers call the 2x2 sect. It's found across the U.S. You may not have heard of it, though. That's because secrecy is written into the church's foundation. And former followers say it's also what allowed this church to hide allegations of abuse for decades. In my new investigative series for NewsNation, I take a deep dive into the 2x2 sect. Here's a first look. They called it faith, a fellowship built on obedience and silence. But former members say behind that silence was something far darker.
It is literally an organization that protects and promotes the pedophiles. And so to remain a member of that, I don't want any association with that.
Inside this hidden movement, questioning leadership wasn't just discouraged, it was dangerous. Members were taught that obedience was salvation.
We are trained to respect the workers, like they are the sent ones of God, they are anointed of God, they've left their home, they've sacrificed so much for the gospel's sake. And because of that, people would overlook so much of us.
Even now, some still defend it, unable to see how deep the control really went.
There are some people that I guarantee you, even if they're listening to this, they just like, no, it's really not. Well, they're just people, or they're just imperfect people too, and they're just this and that. I'm like, no. It goes way deeper than that.
And for those who lived it, the cost of silence was unbearable.
People that were not in the ministry don't really understand how weird and dysfunctional it was and is in the ministry.
But survivors like Sherry Autry say the truth had to come out, no matter the price.
I just have always felt that somewhere, somehow, someday, I would tell my story. If it helps one person get help, not feel alone, if it protects one child, what happened to me was completely worth it.
A secretive faith empire, the silence that protected it, and the voices breaking through. I'm Hena Doba. This is Horror in the Heartland. And Horror in the Heartland airs weekly on NewsNation's YouTube channel. You can watch the first and second episode right now at youtube.com/NewsNation. And let's go back to our top story. Hundreds of flights were canceled today as the government shutdown grinds on. Chris Cuomo joins me live with his take. That's next. This is a live look at LAX airport in Los Angeles as the sun goes down. Some traffic trickling in, though. We will be right back. Join me tomorrow morning for Morning in America Weekends, starting at 7 a.m. Eastern, right here on NewsNation. Meanwhile, Chris Cuomo joining me now. Chris, hello. You're about to speak with Chris Sununu about the government shutdown, day one of the flight cuts at the airports across the country. Congressman Tim Burchett, he was on the Hill earlier. He was talking to Blake, and he thinks this might go past Thanksgiving. Your thoughts?
You know, I had heard that I was trying to get Fetterman back on to talk about it, and there were votes, and I was hoping that something was going to happen tonight, tomorrow. Yeah. I can't believe that they would do that when they have to, well, unless what they want is for us to hate one another. I mean, if that's all this is just a zero-sum, battle to the bottom, I can't believe they think that would be good for the country.
Have you ever seen anything like this, Chris?
No, and here's why. I've never seen a shutdown ever achieve anything because, it can't. If this is you and me, you can't let me get really anything for doing this. Otherwise, this is all that will ever happen, right?
Right.
So there's never been any advancement. Like Trump, when they did it, he didn't even get money for the wall when that happened. You remember that? So,
oh, I do.
So have I ever seen anything like this? No, I've never seen them so casually cause pain to see which side it hurts most and not give a damn about who they're hurting or how.
And still getting paid.
And I'm actually starting tonight kind of explaining a little bit of this and clearing up some stuff about the mayoralty campaign also. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to highlight for people some obvious plays of deception that are going on. That's all.
I'm looking forward to it. My friend Chris Cuomo, take it away. I'll see everybody tomorrow morning. Thank you again.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.